Hello, folks. Welcome back to Ferox Frank Reviews. And today, hail to the king of the monsters, baby. It's Godzilla time yet again. Okay, I'm not reviewing a Godzilla film particularly. Today, we're doing film versus. It's been, well, over a year since I did the last one. As a matter of fact, it was actually of two. As a matter of fact, I had to look over the last thing I had to read. Last time I did film versus, it was actually Max Payne, the video game, versus Dead to Rights, the video game. Yeah, I gotta get back to playing those games one of these days, if I have time. When I get time, whatever. But today we're going to be looking at two Godzilla films that were recently released. Well, one actually released about almost 10 years ago. The other one came out literally last year. Well, about a year ago, particularly. They both got released on Blu-ray, and they're both successful films. However, one of the films actually got an Oscar win for best visual effects. Okay, okay, look, enough of the suspense. The two films we're going to be looking at is Shin Godzilla versus Godzilla Minus One. Oh yeah, we're looking at two Godzilla reboots from Japan. Oh, this is going to be good. Well, a film versus these two. This should be loads of fun. Well, I guess we just. I think we're gonna start off with like how I should I categorize this shit. Like maybe I don't know, like the story setting, the year it's supposed to take place in, the characters particularly, Godzilla himself, the way the storyline progresses, and the overall features at the end. Yeah, you know what? There's a lot I want to say here, but let's just get this over with, shall we? For example, what year do these things take place in? Well, this one takes place in 2016. Yeah, this one clearly takes place in 2016, and this is actually around the point where Godzilla never attacked Japan at all. Yeah, but the strange thing is, during its first initial trailer run, it was originally called Godzilla's Resurgence for some reason. Now it's been called Shin Godzilla ever since. But I think there was like a miscommunication in the trailer or something for like distribution that maybe they originally had an idea for a film called Godzilla's Resurgence, but apparently the marketing guys screwed up on the kind of screwed up, and they re-released the trailer to Shin Godzilla. I don't know. It was really weird when the first trailer dropped on this one. And the crazy thing is too, the same year this came out, the Return of Godzilla came out on DVD and Blu-ray after all these years. Yeah, 32 years of not being on being on Blu-ray or DVD in English, and it was finally released. Wow, talk about ridiculous. This one, okay, it takes place in the opening. Okay, this movie actually does take place in 1945 in the beginning, but the rest of the film takes place in 1947. All right, so it clearly takes place in a post-war Japan. Yeah, where Japan literally has nothing. They have zero. Godzilla makes it -1 now. Get the title name? Clever. Okay, that being said, let's talk about the characters real quick. All right, this one has way too many fucking characters to count. I mean, okay, look, I'm not gonna lie. This one has a lot of okay, I'm not gonna lie. Shin Godzilla has a ton of problems, but they have a lot of characters in this movie, like a lot of characters, and all of it is political. Like seriously, it's all political problems here and there. Okay, but this one actually has fewer characters. Yeah, and yes, even the minor characters that do come up from time to time, they actually have better roles, and they're more memorable. Yeah, the characters in this one are a lot more memorable. This one, Yeah, you just wish Godzilla would just kill half the cast members, which actually he does kill. He does actually kill some characters in this movie, which is kind of ironically funny. But still, what are you gonna do about it? All right, it's completely ridiculous. There's like way too many characters that pop up here and there, and when they do, it's like they have a subtitle that pops up what they are and everything, and what they do. Some characters just pop up out of nowhere, like oh, here's what they do here and there. Oh, and here's our main character. It's like yeah, and he's got a certain title name underneath him, and it keeps growing as the film goes on. It's like with this one, we follow just a few characters. That's it. I mean, with this one, it's all politics and everything. It's all about political gains, about how to control the country later on and how to stop Godzilla. With this one, it takes place in the ending days of World War II. We have a kamikaze pilot who basically did not go through with his mission, but instead decides to live his life instead. Winds up taking in a woman and a young baby who was orphaned during the bombings of Tokyo, and they basically become an unofficial family, and they just live their lives, which is actually, what I have to say, is a lot better. So I guess when it comes down to this, like I just split the categories up real quick. But as far as the years is concerned, this one is okay because it's modernized. But this one goes back to a much more simpler time. But it goes to an era we actually haven't seen Godzilla attack yet, which is actually a decade prior, which is the 40s, which he's known to attack from the 50s. But hey, that's originality for you, and it worked out better. So point goes to this one. As for character developments, yeah, there's no question about that one. This one had way too many characters to count. Like I lost count after like what 20 minutes in. Sheesh. Ugh. Okay. That being said, what's the storyline for both films exactly? Well, here's the ironic twist on the storylines. Okay, aside from the characters and the settings, the storyline is that Godzilla is basically that Godzilla is attacking Japan, and the end result is trying to stop Godzilla. That's about well features, but the storyline is slightly different because well, this one they treated Godzilla more like a nuclear disaster, but they actually have everything done in a more realistic political sense. So there's like way too many. There's like far too many political meetings in this movie, like way too many to even count. So it's like oh, and the crazy thing is, this movie actually was accurate to the point. This is how Japan would have actually done it too. It was like, oh, we gotta have a meeting here. We gotta have a meeting here. Meeting. So okay, people, while you're having meetings, there's a giant kaiju running around, destroying the fucking city, killing countless people. Fuck your meetings. Release the military, idiots. God, with this one, like I said, it takes place on the ending days of the Second World War, where Godzilla actually shows up as a dinosaur, first of all, and then he actually gets irradiated, and then he starts attacking the fishing boats, and it's basically a much more better remake of the original film. So it pays a lot of homage to the original film, and when he does attack humanity, it's basically him attacking humanity because he hates humanity for what happened with the bomb. Uh, And there's no and there is only one particular, and there's only a few political meetings, and it's only militarized meetings of how they're going to stop them, but it's done a bit more better. Now, this one was done too realistically. This one was done a lot more better because you actually care about the characters in this movie too, and that's another thing too. I forgot to talk about character developments. All right, this movie has a lot of characters in it though, way too many to count. But this one has very few characters. But the difference is these characters you care about. Yeah. So this one really upped the ante on that one a lot. so, so who wins on the storyline portion of the movie? Well, with this one, it's more like a remake. They are both remakes in their own right, and honestly, well, it's a draw. Like I'm not gonna lie, they're both basically good on their own accounts, but hey, what the hell? I mean, it's still technically a Godzilla film, but they're both Japanese remakes, and they're both good in their own rights. This one actually did, however, there is a difference between the two of them. This one was actually left known for a sequel, but never got one. mainly due to the fact Toho screwed up. They weren't supposed to make this movie until after the last American-made Godzilla film came out in 2020, but thanks to COVID, that got pushed back to 2021. And now there's actually more films coming out now because of the success of that film series. And this one, how can you make a sequel out of it? It was ridiculous. It would have been much more darker than ever. Well, this one actually had a much more, even though it had a dark storyline, it actually had a bright future ahead of itself. And yes, a sequel just got greenlit, and it's happening. Thank you, God. We got to talk about Godzilla real quick. All right, we got to talk about the Godzilla's designs. Okay, for example, Shin's Godzilla's design. just, just look at this. I mean, what the fuck? All right, it's a completely creepy design, and also his origin design is extremely weird. He's not even like a dinosaur or any type of reptile. He's supposed to be some type of ancient marine creature, like a prehistoric marine animal that just got irradiated from nuclear waste, and now he turned into Godzilla somehow, and he had several stages along the way. Oh yeah, it was just completely ridiculous. And he was so slow in walking. It's like, da 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 da. I mean, oh my god! And look at Godzilla in this one. All right, his design looks way more better in this one. I mean, I guess best comparison. Let's look at this is the This is the toy version of the GMK design. All right, which is somewhat accurate, but here's the thing: this design is actually a copy of the you're gonna love this. Godzilla the Ride design from Japan, where he was like 100 meters tall, but it was the same exact design. Although they actually added him, although they gave him an extra dorsal plate on the top portion of his back here, which was a little bit more outwards, which is kind of big. But I think there was sort of a fan complaint for a while. They wanted to see that design for a long while, but hey, it worked. Now the difference is just look at his design. All right, this is clearly a mixture between the between the Legendary's design and the Heisei design. So that's what it clearly is. So that means this one is able to actually move around just a little bit more quicker, and he can actually use his arms practically. However, he originally started off as a dinosaur, so they're going with the full Heisei era style of storytelling, which is he shows up as a dinosaur, and then he progresses, and he gets mutated into the Godzilla we know and love today. And visually, on the effects on both of these characters, the visual effects on this one is like, well, they did use well, the thing is, they did use like a dummy in some shots. Like they had an animatronic for some shots, and they actually said they used mostly CG. But some shots you could clearly tell it was an animatronic that they CG'd in and just had a CG overlay on it. Though with this one, they did not go full. They went full CG with maybe a stand-in prop for on certain scenes here and there. But other than that, it was mostly all CG, like a proper CG Godzilla film, and it actually worked out a lot better. Crazy thing is, this one had a lower budget than this one did, and yet this film was a big financial success. But this one made even more money, which is even more crazy. And a lot of people say that this one's visual effects are better than the American ones. Yeah, lower budget, but in this case, it's more of the attention to detail that really comes out to it. But which Godzilla, in my opinion, is actually better? The minus one or the Shin? Well, it's minus one. Okay, look, I don't want to be the asshole here, but I'm not going to give Shin Godzilla an ounce of credit. I mean, Shin Godzilla is just kind of like a big wobbling idiot. So, well, minus one is a walking terror. Seriously, he's like a fucking powerhouse. Now, okay, okay. To be fair, like Shin Godzilla is like what 118 meters is 118 meters tall, while this one is clearly 50 meters tall. All right, massive difference in height, but if you look at the time eras, it makes sense. Oh yeah. But like I said before, this one it looks scary, but in a sense, it's more like a nuclear bomb about to go off. But this one, it technically is a nuclear bomb, but it's actually a walking terror regardless. So points go to Godzilla minus one. Oh, I gotta hit the gym after this. Okay, let's talk about key scenes real quick, all right? We had the military attack sequences and the military fight scenes, but okay, the military fight scenes are slightly better in this one because they're actually having an entire army go up against Godzilla, and of course he just walks right by them and he takes all the punishment. So the scenes in this one are more or less classic in a sense, but yeah, okay-ish to say the least. But it's more or less there's a lot of military scenes in this one. There's very few military scenes in this one. That's because of the fact that in this movie's timeline, the military was disbanded. Okay, and it was after the Second World War. So yeah, you can clearly tell there's a lot of agony going on in Japan at this point. And I just realized that the entire visual spectrum is a kind of bright, so I gotta turn a couple of lights off. Right. So as far as like Godzilla fighting off the military, with this one, he just walks. That's all he does. He just walks right all over them, like duh, 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 duh. He just walks. That's all he does. And when it comes down to the key scene of him using his heat ray, okay, it's done in an operatic sense, which is kind of crazy, where he just lowers himself, his jaw splits open here at the bottom, he barfs out, like literally just barfs out fire, like smoke, and it turns into fire, and then it forms into a heat ray, and he just destroys Tokyo with the heat ray. But in his back area, he actually winds up shooting lasers out of his back area. And the ending of the movie, where he's fighting off against with the drones, he has a heat ray coming at the tip of his tail, which in some designs you can clearly see there's actually a mouth at the end of it. So yeah, Shin Godzilla is a walking toxic nightmare. But with this one, military attacks him. Like the first time we see him get attacked in the movie with of course a ship, rather than use his heat ray, he actually goes straight towards the ship and he starts actually clawing, punching the ship, and starts ripping the ship to pieces with his arms and his teeth. So it's like this one's more animalistic. It's like, dude, yeah. The music is going off crazy. It's like, oh yeah, this is definitely something. But by the time they actually do fight him off and he goes into the water, we see the blue light come up. It's like, it's over. Yeah, they're fucking dead. Kaboom! There goes the ship. And he attacks Tokyo. And by the time the military does attack him in the city, what does he do? Well, his heat ray is a bit more. How do I put this? A literal bomb. Yeah, with this one, it's like he's a walking radiation field. So when everywhere he shoots, it's radioactively contaminated from this point onwards. But with this one, no. Here's the thing. Like we have the portion right here where we actually see his back is glowing. It's blue and everything. But here's the thing: his dorsal plates actually rise up. Yeah, they rise up from the tip of his tail. They go all the way up. They rise up, even especially from the back. We see energy go into his mouth, and yeah, when the dorsal plates slam back into his body, it fires out and it lets off an atomic explosion. So yeah, minus one's heat ray is a literal atomic explosion, which is a little too much for him. And he uses it very sparingly, I might have to say, because when he uses it, he actually damages his body every time he uses it. Oh, and as far as the abilities are concerned for both these guys, yeah, with this one, like he loses yeah, he does actually regenerate and he evolves, but this fucker, oh, he evolves like he doesn't evolve. He regenerates like crazy. Like literally, like they actually throw a mine inside of his mouth. It blows off like a huge chunk, like a chunk of his face. I was like, oh, moment of silence. We killed him. Face just it just regenerates right there on the spot. And the crazy thing is, we actually see his eyes look ahead at the camera. Then he turns to look at them once it's fully regenerated. It's like, oh shit, yeah, uh, we're fucked. We're fucked. So yeah, as far as the military sequences are concerned, this one is a bit more. This one's military sequences were a bit more because it actually had a lot more military aspects. But if they actually wind up using the same military aspects for this one, yeah, I'm pretty sure Tokyo would have been nuked at this point. So that would have been nothing. So yeah, just forget about it. So on equal terms, both the attacks with the military were both good. So I had to give it to both of them. But as far as Godzilla's abilities are concerned, I'm going to have to give -1 just a bit more credit because it's designed to look more like that. It's designed to go more like the Heisei era, while Shin just keeps evolving like crazy. So we don't even know what his next form was going to be. But this fourth form is the form we know him as right now, and uh, thank God I only had one movie. Tokyo's attack sequences. Let's talk about that real quick. Okay, well, the first time around when Shin shows up, he does actually destroy a chunk of, like, just a segment of Tokyo, but this is where he is early stages of his evolution. But to be fair, he does actually come back in his final form, and he just destroys the city like crazy, like usual. But it's more or less he's just slow building, and he just tumbles things over here and there. While -1, he deliberately attacks the buildings. Like we literally see him just like thrust himself into the building, like just swipe at the buildings using his tail, using his feet, using his claws, using his teeth. So yeah, -1 shows he's more agile than Shin ever was. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to the -1 on this one. We came down to Tokyo's destruction sequences because this one was more like an atomic bomb, and it was actually at the end of the war when Japan survived an atomic explosion. Okay. Oh man, that was a little dirty. Bonus round: the music and sound effects. What can we say about the music and sound effects? Shin, okay, they reused old sound effects from the old Showa era and Heisei era, and the music, okay, it went back and forth between the old music and new music to music from Evangelion. Okay, I know Evangelion's director actually made this movie, but still, regardless, why? Why use all that music? I mean, they could come up with some new music. I mean, "Persecution to the Masses" was actually the best song of the music in this entire thing, and there was also there's also the song that's actually sung by Godzilla's perspective too. Like, "Where Would I Go?" This one had a lot of original music. They did utilize the original Godzilla theme songs in it though, but it was only during the but it was actually during the appropriate scenes. Where Godzilla attacks, and we actually hear the old theme song come up. It's like, yeah. And then the original military march song, which later became Godzilla's theme, shows up at the very end where they're fighting Godzilla for the final time. Yeah, it all works. So as far as the music and sound effects are concerned, -1 wins by a margin, like without a doubt. Yeah. Now comes the ending. So let's talk about the endings real quick. Okay, the ending is different for both of them because with Shin they used a so-called blood coagulant or something. They actually, but there was a lot of scientific talk and a lot of politics involved in it too. So it was just purely ridiculous. However, in the end, they did wind up using the blood coagulant and actually turning Godzilla into a living statue. But because this movie was originally supposed to have a sequel, its sequel baited to know that we were supposed to see Godzilla's next evolution with the humanoid creatures, and they were supposed to take over Japan eventually. But the sequel was canned, and instead what we got was this film instead, which is a better movie. So the ending fight is to actually take Godzilla out to the deepest part to the base section, where of course they're going to drown him, but they have to actually have the ships wrap like some type of bubbles or like bubble devices around him. And once that happens, they hit a bubbling device that make him sink underwater real quick. It's mostly due to the fact they have to make sure the water pressure can kill him, and he drops like 1,500 meters so fast. Now, keep this in mind: Godzilla is used to swimming deep waters anyway. But here's the thing: he gradually goes under. It takes him at least a couple of hours just to go deep underwater. All right, so it takes him like maybe a few hours for him to go deep underwater to get used to the pressure. With this one, it was less than 5 seconds. So yeah, and so when he's like really 1,500 meters deep, he's just like, ugh, frozen. And we start to see his body start slightly moving and everything. So if that didn't work, the second plan was to actually bring him up, raise him all the way upwards, and just have him implode himself to death. Which unfortunately he rips the balloons off because the devices that actually had the bubbling on it though also had airbags underneath it too to make him float up. But he actually rips the airbags off, but the cables are still attached to him. So a bunch of tugboats come in to actually help the two warships to bring him upwards. And of course, it does work. He actually comes up, and keep this in mind: this Godzilla heals like has a fast healing factor. So what happens? He's imploding and healing at the same time, so his body can't keep it up. Top that off, he's trying to fire. He's charging up his heat rate at the same time. Our main hero actually uses a plane and actually goes right into his mouth and actually blows his head off. Yeah, now, don't worry, the hero actually survives. All right, I'm not going to go further into detail on the whole storyline and everything. That's a review for another day. But the main hero actually slams a plane right into his mouth, which blows Godzilla's head up. And since he couldn't fire his heat ray and he's imploding and regenerating at the same time, well, his brain is dead. And with the implosion stopped, and he's got a lot of radiation buildup, it just comes out of Godzilla naturally and dissolves his body. So yeah, it kills him off instantly. The actually are left with a much more happier ending, but yeah, just like GMK, just like GMK, just a piece of Godzilla's flesh is left behind and it starts to regenerate, hinting at a sequel. Oh, thank God. We are left with a great ending, with a great movie. Oh, yes. So, that is -1 versus Shin Godzilla. So let's tally everything up. So timelines. So let's talk about this. Timelines. Shin or -1? Both. Okay, I'll give both the time. Both the timelines are okay. The storylines. Okay, they're both okay too. So it's like it's equal on both accounts. Um. Okay, character development. Like characters and character development. Clearly -1. Godzilla, particularly like just Godzilla in general and his abilities. I would say give it to Shin, but nah, fuck it. Give it to -1. I mean, with Shin, he has way too much ridiculous shit going on. So yeah, I'm just gonna give it the -1. All right. Fight sequences, -1, just a little bit. But also Shin has some good ones too. So yeah, I'll just give it to both of them on that account. Okay. Let's see. A plot point to stop Godzilla completely. Okay, both are okay, but which one was executed better? Okay, both are good, but both, as far as the endings are concerned, this one clearly wins. Music concerned, yeah, this one clearly. But now comes a really interesting part of the review. I have to say, who would actually win a fight between both Shin and -1? Well, if we take away the fact that there may be that -1 could reach up to 100 meters in height in the near future, if these two actually did wind up fighting, for one thing, Shin will have the height advantage, but physical fight wise and the abilities, it'll all go to -1. Not to mention that atomic breath of his is just way too powerful to begin with. So yeah, clearly -1 will win on all forms of the account. Well, that's said and done. I finally did another versus, but this time around it was of Godzilla. Hope you all enjoyed this. Okay, tune in next time. And now that I think about it, I haven't done a Schwarzenegger film in a while. Oh wait, maybe I have. I usually forget the movies I review. Though I think maybe I should do a Schwarzenegger movie that basically started his career. So the next time we'll take a look at, well, a movie that deserves a third film in the entry. Until then, Felix Frank, signing out.